Well, much like we did on AEW Dynamite ups and downs this week, we now have to look at SmackDown and go, oh my goodness, it has been on Fox for a year. Where did those 365 days go? Also, imagine 1 year ago, I had told you everything that was going to happen over the next 12 months. You would have hunted me down and you would have kicked me right in my groin to try and teach me a lesson. And now I'll be on here going, my balls still hurt, but wasn't I right? Let's not worry about my cojones. Let's worry about the latest episode of WWE SmackDown, which is becoming a damn good television show. Like, even if you don't like some of the stories, at least they're all integrated and they make sense and there's a thread. I am having a rollicking good time. Let's up those downs. The start to SmackDown was just money. It was like going to an ATM and it just spitting cash right in your face. Because even though it's basically been 5-6 days since Clash of the Champions, the pay-per-view, Roman Reigns is still livid that Jey Uso didn't call him the tribal chief. Like, him and Paul Heyman were out here. Paul Heyman was like, oh, Roman, you are the tribal chief. I love you. And bowing down, I was bowing down too, going, oh, Roman, tribal chief. But he didn't care about any of that because, again, his stupid-ass cousin hadn't said these words. Reigns then demanded that Jey Uso came to the ring, which he did, and I'm a little worried that all those punches to his head have done something to his brain, because he said to Roman, don't forget, man, it was my brother that flew in the towel, and if it wasn't for that, I would be Universal Champion. I was like, Jey, I don't think you would have been. I think you would be dead. The tribal chief, see Roman, I do it. Oh, Roman Reigns, bow down, we love you. He said that Jey still didn't get it, because for him, Clash of Champions was the worst night of his life, because he was trying to raise Jey Uso up. He was trying to put him in the main event. He was trying to allow him to have a massive payday that would change his life. But this didn't happen, and now not only was it an embarrassment, but Jey was an embarrassment to the entire families. When they're sat around having dinner, they're all going to be looking at him like, you piece of trash. The whole time Uso was just looking at the championship too, and Roman couldn't handle that either, because from nowhere, he just blurted out, you can't even look at me in the eye? Well, fine, here's what's going to happen. You want another shot? We're going to do it again at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and it will be in that famous structure. And I was like, where did that come from? And then I realized. It was me, the wizard in the sky, the person that always justifies bizarre decisions in WWE's booking. And look, I just really like Jey Uso. I think he's wonderful. He's come so far. And I was like, right, how am I going to work you into another main event? Like, really, he shouldn't be. But then I went, halabaji! And I made it happen. Because again, I'm the wizard in the sky. And I will do whatever it takes to ensure that Jey Uso becomes Universal Champion. Because can you imagine how mad Twitter would be? Wizard in the sky. Who even cares though? Jey then fired up and said that he will win the belt at the pay-per-view. And again, that little square inside me was like, yeah, I think we should make Jey Uso the champion because he's such a lovable underdog. And there's also this other spin, because Roman told us that something is going to be on the line that is bigger than anything that has ever been on the line in history. And they didn't tell us what it was, and that was great because now we've got a cliffhanger. Maybe it's going to be a hair versus hair match, and we're going to shave off Roman's mane, and then he's going to be the bald tribal chief, and then I'll doubly bow down to him. We can be bros. And you can argue that Roman kicked his ass so much that it doesn't make any sense, but it's all about execution, and the execution here was so good. Also, Paul Heyman looks terrified the entire time. All of this is just the best, and you know what it does? It makes me feel good in my tum-tum. The Wizard in the Sky had then clearly been working overtime too, because out came AJ Styles. And he was being all AJ Styles like, oh, you're a loser, I'm the best, everybody should love me. And after they got into a little bit of a brawl, it turned out that we were going to get AJ Styles versus Jey Uso. Now look, I got nothing against that. These are two premier workers going at it. But once more, if I had tried to guess how SmackDown was going to begin, this wouldn't have been on my bingo list. Otherwise though, up. Aside from the pair just smashing it from start to finish, this is also exactly what WWE needed to do, because if we are going to suspend our disbelief and think that Jey Uso could win the Universal Championship, he needs to start taking out guys that used to be the WWE Champion. One of those is AJ Styles, so when he missed the phenomenal forearm and Jey Uso then hit him with the splash to get the victory, I was like, well, there we go. We are one step further up this ladder. And for those going nuts about AJ Styles losing, well, firstly, he can just lose now because he's so so important to the company, and his character's so good, you can do whatever you want with him, and he'll be okay. And 2, is the draft next week. There's a lot of rumours out there that apparently him and Paul Heyman still aren't friends. He also wants to start going to his son's football games again on Friday, so maybe he's going back to Raw, and this was just him giving some power to Jey Uso before he says goodbye to SmackDown. It also means that he's taking his momentum and he's giving it to Jey Uso like some kind of weird sci-fi movie. I just thought it was a great match. I really did. We were about, 20-25 minutes in here? I was like, SmackDown is doing it. It is kicking Raw's ass. Sami Zayn was then once again being the best. I mean, his character is so annoying. He's such an ass chunk, but he delivers it so well, because he was blaming management for all his problems, then he was blaming the fans, then he took Jeff Hardy's version of the Intercontinental Championship and just threw it in the bin, and he is going to face Jeff Hardy later, but this isn't even a problem, because he's Sami Zayn, and him and his wonderful beard are going to win. Sami Zayn should probably one day be the world champion. I'm going to say that very quietly, because, people don't agree. I then got the fear, because next week on SmackDown, we were told that Otis is going to go to court with The Miz, and he's going to represent himself so no one takes away his Money in the Bank briefcase. Now, I love Otis. I think he can do whatever he wants, but I've also seen how WWE has handled some of these segments in the past. It's going to be a rough 7 days for old Simon Miller. Very scared. But we shall see. You never know. I don't want to judge it too early. On this night, though, we were getting John Morrison versus Mr. Money in the Bank. And it was interesting. I'm still going to give it up. Because Miz and Tucker were banned from ringside, and that just allowed Otis to absolutely whoop Johnny Boy's ass. Like, I don't think he had any offense here, and if he did, it was so minimal, I forgot about it. So Otis hit the Caterpillar, he hit the Vader Bomb, and he pinned him on the 1, 2, 3, like John Morrison was a tomato, and you wouldn't do anything with a tomato in wrestling, it would lose. And the reason I can get behind this is once again from a story point of view, because Otis needed some kind of revenge for everything that's going to be on, and now he feels like he's on top of the world. I don't really understand how WWE sees John Morrison, because again, for my money, I think you could give him a main event run and he'd absolutely smash it. But clearly something awful is going to happen to Otis soon, so at least he got his respite here. You see, worked. Because of that, though, I now think the reckoning is coming for Otis. He's probably going to end up in jail, like the Mountie. WWE then did that thing when I think they forgot the segment they just had prior to this one. Or when they had the running order, somebody had accidentally copied and pasted it, because we essentially got the same damn thing down. It started well because Big E challenged Sheamus to a Falls Count Anywhere match next week to draw a line under that feud, and you'd have to imagine that either Big E's going to Raw or Sheamus is going to Raw, so hopefully Big E can get a big win and then continue to climb his way to that Universal Championship. I haven't forgot, I want Big E on the Big E boat to win everything. He's great. But then the Irishman absolutely killed Shorty G. So yeah, as I've already said, that is 2 squash matches back to back. And what has Chad Gable done? Who did Chad Gable insult? Who did Chad Gable sleep with? There has to be some huge controversy around Chad Gable, because he just got bro kicked around about 92,000 times and then pinned. Now there is a rumor going around that Gable may be the surprise person at the NXT TakeOver event this week, and I tell you, it better be him, because if it's not Chad, you just need to leave. You need to leave World Wrestling Entertainment. I think you have the potential to be the next Kurt Angle, but I don't think that management does. Unless you're happy. If you're happy, you do whatever the hell you want. More randomness followed as Kevin Owens was then on SmackDown. All this was happening just 1 week before the draft, which makes that whole brand split thing seem even less important than usual. But you know the deal here. It's Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens could be put in a feud with a fish, and he would get the fish over, and then you go on Reddit, and everyone would be going, we need to push the fish harder. Why aren't we pushing the fish? Point is, Kevin Owens getting up. He was also hosting the Kevin Owens show, and given that his guest was Alexa Bliss, there was only one question he wanted to ask, which is, what the hell, what the flub is going on with you? Because recently, you're not the happy-go-lucky Alexa Bliss I used to know. You some crazy dark tamale, and really you freaking me out. Bliss had a pretty good comeback to that, because she was like, yeah, I've changed, Kevin, it's called life. Maybe you should try it sometime. Then Owens tried to balance this out by saying, look, if I can understand you, maybe I can understand that insane person, Aleister Black. And if you haven't seen, he been whooping me around recently. And this didn't really help KO, because then Alexa went on this huge tirade about how the Fiend makes her feel, and it was essentially the same story as when you're young and you go on your first date, you're all excited, but you're all nervous and you don't know what to do, and when you walk through the door afterwards, you're like, I'm in love, I'm in love. That's Alexa Bliss and the Fiend. Owens replied saying that this sounded like brainwashing, And at that very moment, he realized the Fiend was about to turn up. And he did, after Alexa Bliss, of course, had said the line, "Let him in." I mean, that was a little bit cheesy, but I don't care. The lights went off, it went all red. Bray Wyatt was here. He took his fingers and he stuffed them down Kevin Owens' throat as he went like this. You know, like, oh, I can't handle it, I can't handle it. And then, if you can believe it, the Fiend and Alexa Bliss left together, hand in hand. Like boyfriend and girlfriend. And look, let's just be honest with this. While it is super goofy, it's also great, right? I don't know why, but it's just so much fun. It's so silly, but it's so entertaining. And in an instant, I really want a Kevin Owens versus The Fiend feud. And I didn't even know that was on the table. They also announced that we're going to have another Kevin Owens show on Raw, and Bray Wyatt is going to be the guest. I think I'm a little bit tingly. It must be like Alexa Bliss feels about The Fiend. We also probably did need somebody to fall into Bray Wyatt's trap, and Alexa Bliss is the perfect choice. And also before this, when Kevin Owens was getting ready and he had like a sign behind him that said The Kevin Owens Show, it flashed briefly and you saw the Firefly Funhouse. It's the little details, I tell you. It is the little details. And then from nowhere, it was Matt Riddle, Lince Dorado, and Grandmother Metalik taking on Baron Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Cesaro. I mean, who made that?
It was me!
Of course it was him. Still, it was good. Up. Had a promo beforehand where Matt Riddle said he desperately has to win tonight because it could be his last match on SmackDown in case he gets traded to Raw next week. And the Lucha House Party were dancing around saying that Kalisto isn't here because his head has become so big, he's struggling in the locker room to get on his mask. And as the idiot I am, I chose to take this literally, so clearly Kalisto isn't well, so I'm sending him all the health in the world, and I hope that his head deflates. It was kind of funny, as once the match did begin, Kalisto just walked out like a child that had been forgotten by his parents. That's pretty dark, but he was really pissed off. And this was all about Nana Metalik. Nana Metalik is just, he's so good, he's just flying all over the place. And also when he gave a hot tag to Matt Riddle was also fire. Honestly, I tell you, this was sports entertaining. The finish was nuts though, and I have no idea what WWE is trying to achieve. Because Kalisto accidentally kicked Lince Dorado, and I suppose it did look like a mistake, but who knows? And that allowed Matt Riddle to beat Cesaro after the Bro Derek. That kind of irked me because now you've got some weird 50-50 booking on where Baron Corbin beat Matt Riddle, but Matt Riddle beat Cesaro. So does that mean that Matt Riddle now gets some kind of tag team shot? I don't know, but I'm just going to take it and go whoop and throw it over there. I don't have to worry about it because this was just some good wrestling. It also makes me question why we had Riddle lose 7 days ago. And Baron Corbin didn't really feature here either. He was a bit like a background person. You tell me. The Lucha House Party went at it again before Riddle and Metalik calmed them down, and of course Grandmother Metalik did this. Who is better at diffusing a situation than your Nana? When they were backstage, he probably made them a cocoa and gave them some cake, and now they're all gonna be happy again. I love Grand Metalik. In fact, I love him so much, let's give him an up for all the grandmothers out there. No, that's not true, that's not what we do, take it back. And then next we found out who the mysterious woman in all the videos had been. It was Carmella. Oh, now look, there was nothing wrong with this. It was just very anticlimactic because in the weeks leading up to this, it'd been like, oh, weird camera angle, who is it? And then she was like, "Pa, here I am, how you doing? I'm not gonna listen to your rules anymore." And I was like, wait, my rules? I didn't know I was making the rules. I'm definitely not making the rules because I would have had them made more sense. And now she's gonna be untouchable unless she doesn't wanna be. So I figure out that her gimmick is gonna be opponents trying to touch her and then she just like limbos out the way. Should be interesting. This was a little bit generic, but again, let's give it time. Maybe she smashes it out the park. Then flipping Sasha Banks was here. This feud up. Even though Banks knew that Bayley wasn't here this evening because she'd been running scared, she wanted to make it very clear that not only did she beat her up last week, but now her whole purpose in life is to continually beat her ass, especially because she only still is the SmackDown Women's Champion because Sasha Banks was watching her back. Also, she didn't understand why Bayley was so surprised that Sasha Banks attacked her last week. Just because you're not medically cleared doesn't mean you can't jump people. She's right. So given all of that, she then challenged Bayley to a SmackDown Women's title match on next week's episode of SmackDown. Once again, people are like, oh, you can't just do a match from nowhere. What are you talking about? There's gonna be some shenanigans. Of course they're gonna end up in the Hell in a Cell. And you could even argue that's too much. But look, have they had one thing wrong in this feud? Have they taken one incorrect step? No, they have not. I believe in this. I believe in both women. I think it's going to be Fabu. And I'm excited. As long as I'm excited, who cares? What a good SmackDown this was too, because then it was our main event. The Intercontinental Championship was on the line, so that made that feel like it was the most important thing in the world. And it was Sami Zayn versus Jeff Hardy. I mean, What else do you think it's gonna get? It's around here, set up. Zayn was also hilarious straight away because from nowhere, he was slamming Jeff Hardy into an exposed turnbuckle as the commentators were like, well, how did the turnbuckle get exposed? As it turned out, Sami had done this during Jeff Hardy's entrance, and because the referee absolutely sucked, he was just like, I don't care, let's just leave it exposed, it's fine. It also tied into the whole match because both of these guys did everything they could not to have their skull thrown into some metal. So again, I was like, official, put the damn turnbuckle back on, but he didn't want it. Although there was this great bit where Sami Zayn tried to do this, Jeff Hardy got away, but then turned into the Blue Thunder Bomb, and Sami Zayn got such a close near fall, I went, nyeh, like a weird animal giving birth. It was then like a Three Stooges routine as they both took turns and again trying to avoid the metal, but I was absolutely loving it. It was just so much fun, and I need some fun in my life. Unfortunately for Jeff Hardy, the daredevil, he forgot what was going on. He climbed to the top rope, the wrong top rope, and Sami was like, well, that was dumb. He pushed him. Jeff smacked his head right on the exposed steel, and that allowed Zayn to get the 1, 2, 3. He is still your and mine and everybody's Intercontinental Champion. Probably not Roman Reigns' Intercontinental Champion, unless Sami would look at him and go, oh, Tribal Chief, which I'm sure he would. It means at the end of the year, I'm absolutely going to give this referee the World's Worst Award because he certainly deserves it. But Jeff Hardy is really good. Sami Zayn is really good. For the first time in ages, the Intercontinental Champion feels like it means something. I had a wonderful time. I did. That SmackDown zoomed by like a racing car. Overall, it is getting it up. What a great match and what a ridiculous story it had. Now don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down there and let me know what you thought about the episode. Then head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Make sure you have good weekends. I'll see you next week.